Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Insights. First, let's have the welcome remarks to be delivered by the Dean of the Institute of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Rowena C. Reyes.
Our very esteemed speaker, Mr. June Nicdao, Department Chair Anansa Dihan, Professor Liza Banto, DepCom faculty, our dear students, welcome to the DepCom webinar series. We are blessed today to have one of the pillars of the Philippine broadcasting industry with us this afternoon. Apologies for saying this, but he literally is isang alamat or a legend in the broadcasting industry. At the Far Eastern University Institute of Arts and Sciences, our goal is to encourage and nurture the intellectual and creative potentials of our students. IS delivers a learning landscape where students are impressed with the liberal arts orientation to become critical thinkers, ethical communicators, and creative problem solvers. Responsible digital citizens who have personal and professional successes. In The Economist article in 2021, it said, and I quote, "Education will never return the same. It becomes face-to-face but technologically adaptive, each one what they need. So studying offline and inline will be normal," end quote. And so we are here. Although you are all at home, we can still manage to deliver the same quality academic exercise with a lot of help, of course, from our industry practitioners and achieve better learning and instruction successes. COVID happened. It became our sole gateway to our students via the online. Our learning and instructions now delivered three ways. We have modified online learning, asynchronous online learning, and total analog learning. All these three have allowed FEU to be at the forefront of digital learning, and schools look up to us for leadership. So we should really appreciate that all of these things are happening for all of us students. As I said, we look to our industry practitioners, especially like Mr. Nicdao, and we will learn a lot from today what's happening, not just from in your small world, but from outside. So our speaker will definitely give us an updated scenario. We are faced with an unprecedented urgency to work hard, learn ways to improve, and continuously innovate. So, cut my talk very, very short. I want to say thank you to Mr. Nicdao for saying yes, for making today happen. Maraming salamat sa inyo at sa ating mga estudyante for being here. Maraming salamat and nabuhay tayong lahat.
Mabuhay tayong lahat. Magandang hapon. Ating pong dekana, Dr. Rowena C. Reyes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Liz Abanto. I will be your moderator for this afternoon. Allow me to introduce our guest speaker. As Dr. Wen has already mentioned, he is not only a practitioner in the broadcast field, but he is also one of the top managers in the Philippine broadcasting, and not only that, in several other companies. Allow me to introduce Mr. Ruperto S. Nicdao Jr., or sometimes we call him Sir June Nick, or June Nicdao. He serves as the president of Manila Broadcasting Company, MBC Resources Incorporated, and MBC Marketing and Sales Incorporated. He's also currently the chairman of the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas, or KBP. He also chairs the Advertising Foundation of the Philippines. He is also the chairman of the Freedom Fund for the Filipino Journalists and chairman of the Board of Trustees of St. Scholastica's College, Manila. He is the founding chairman of the Ad Standards Council, or ASC, and currently serves as its director. He was a commissioner of UNESCO Philippines from 2012 to 2016, the director of the Cultural Center of the Philippines from 2001 to 2010, and he had served in the Presidential Infrastructure Monitoring Task Force from 2007 to 2010. He serves as a director and ExCom member of various corporations, including Philippine International Corporation, Star Parks Corporation, Elizalde Holdings Corporation, Elizalde Hotels and Resorts Incorporated, Feliz Hotel Boracay Incorporated, among others. He is a member of the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Makati Business Club. He obtained his master's in business administration from the Asian Institute of Management and his Bachelor of Arts major in mathematics, magna cum laude, from the De La Salle University. Friends, allow me to call and introduce our guest for this afternoon, Sir Ruperto Nicdao Jr. Good afternoon, sir. Okay. So, yes, good afternoon, sir. Sir, your mic. All right.
Good
Thank you.
afternoon, please. Good afternoon, Dr. Reyes. And I was saying, good to see you. I haven't seen you for quite a while, no?
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for remembering me.
It's an honor to be with you today, no? So I'll share my screen and go into my presentation. Okay. Let me see. Can you see my screen? Sorry, that should be standard. No? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
It's been
good.
flashed. Okay.
So the title of my presentation will be the Philippine broadcast industry amidst the pandemic and the digital transformation. And the outline would be as follows. I'll talk a little bit about the media industry snapshot, talk about media usage, and zero in on the various media platforms, mainly TV, radio, and I'll touch also on digital, because the digital platform has become a very important the platform, especially during this times. No, I'll also dwell into media ad spend during the pandemic, and wander into the broadcast digital transformation. In the letter that I received, the invitation that I received, I think you wanted me to touch a little bit about broadcast franchises and press freedom. So I didn't make much slides about that. So it's quite controversial, and I'll just probably discuss it more based on the outline that I made. And if there are any questions or opinions about issues about franchise and press freedom, I'm more than willing to discuss those with you. Okay, so first about media usage in 2020. This is a graph done by Kantar. Kantar, by the way, in the Philippines, there are two major international research services that deal with media research. These are Kantar and Kantar Media Research and Nielsen Media Research. Okay, Kantar, you might recall, is closely associated with ABS-CBN, and Nielsen is closely associated with GMA. And yeah, you might have noticed that every time they come up with a rating survey, there are some kind of discrepancies, and Kantar will always have ABS-CBN as a head, while Nielsen will always have GMA. Both from Nielsen and Kantar, because they've been doing a lot of research in terms of media usage and media impact of the COVID on media. The information that I got from Nielsen are mainly from the first and second quarters of 2020, and Kantar did recently a more recent survey, so that I'll be showing those information to you as well. Okay, so the first slide shows the impact of I guess the pandemic on media usage. As you can see here, it will show that the media platforms that were severely negatively impacted by COVID are newspaper and magazines, so the print media, and of course cinema. I think I don't have to explain that. Cinema is obvious. You know, cinemas are closed, so there will be less usage and less penetration for those media. Similarly, newspaper and magazines. You might have also noticed that a lot of our broadsheets have become thinner and thinner, and there has been less advertising support. Mainly, I think because not too many people are buying newspapers and magazines anymore. They can get the information that they can derive from those platforms from other sources. On the other hand, on the right-hand side, you can see that other platforms have increased usage and penetration. Okay, radio has increased slightly in terms of usage and penetration. Uh, um, Online streaming radio did even better than terrestrial radio, uh, as well as listening to podcasts. So the digital radio platforms have increased quite well, or have improved quite well during the pandemic. Uh, TV, on the other hand, also increased. As you see, TV online, traditional offline TV, which is what we normally do when we open our TV sets, and on-demand TV as well have increased in usage and penetration. Okay, but what on this slide, what you can see as gaining a lot of traction are the digital media, internet surfing, online videos, etc., etc. So I guess that's because people are now more because they're cooped up in their homes. They're going to those platforms more and more right now. This is another slide that shows you the same thing basically, but it also shows other countries where Kantar did some surveys. So these are Australia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. The gray shade shows you the decrease in consumption of specific media, while the gold or yellow bar will show the increase compared to the previous month of the survey. Now, so across all countries, as you can see, TV increased. The increase in consumption on TV more than offset the decrease. So in Australia, 38 increase and 9 decrease. Even in the Philippines, there was a 50% increase in TV consumption compared to a drop off of 25%. Radio also increased, this is consistent with the previous slide that I showed you earlier. Radio also increased, although slightly in a less manner than TV. So 17 to 15, for example, in Australia. In the Philippines, it's 31 to 24, and all across the other countries, except probably Indonesia, where there was a decline in radio listening. Newspaper in the Philippines, as you can see, there's a 33% decline compared to an increase of 15. So the story is the same. And then on the bottom portion of the slide, you can see all the various digital platforms, internet surfing, et cetera, all mostly in gold shade, which means there is a really marked increase in consumption of digital media. Moving on to television now, more specifically. Okay, there are two major events that impacted TV in the Philippines. The first, of course, is COVID, which resulted in lockdowns and so forth and so on. And later on, I'll show that the second significant event that happened for Philippine television is the shutdown of ABS-CBN. And I'll discuss that in a while. Okay, for COVID-related impact, Metro Manila was locked down, as you know, on March 15. We just celebrated the first anniversary. I'm not going to wish you a happy anniversary because it's not happy, because we're still in lockdown. Hopefully, the lockdown will be lifted soon. Although, as you very well know, I think cases are on the rise. So, just a reminder to everyone: please practice the health protocols so that we can help in the mitigation of the pandemic. So the lockdown was implemented, the lockdown was implemented in March 15 of last year, and the ECQ in Metro Manila was implemented on March 18. As you can see in the slide, once the lockdown was implemented, there was a marked increase in TV viewing because people were, I guess, for two reasons. One, we're forced to stay at home. Number two, I think we wanted to get information about the pandemic. As you may have recalled, there was a lot of information being thrown to us The government had its daily laging handa briefing, anything that has to do with COVID, and also and I think we had to have we had to know the information that around us so that we can protect ourselves and so forth. Now, so that is the reason why there was a 6% increase in TV viewing from almost 6%, so over 15% to 21% increase in TV viewing at the early stage of the pandemic. Consumption of digital media also went up, as you can see in this slide, and the group that were consuming more digital media are the professionals and students, such as you. And on the box on the right side of this slide, you can see that the more affluent consumed compared to the other socioeconomic classes, it's the AB class that was consuming more digital media. Okay. Now going on to the second event that I was talking about, the Abs-Cbn closure. So just so that we are on the same, we have a background of what happened. I showed here a timeline of the events that happened leading up to the closure of Abs-Cbn. On March 11, there were, as you know, ABS applied for the renewal of their franchise much earlier. In fact, the application ABS was first filed during the presidency of Noynoy Aquino, but they backed off for some reasons, and they filed again during the term of the Duterte administration. Okay, so the hearings unfortunately didn't start earlier. There were a lot of talks within Congress whether or not they will schedule the hearings, but finally they did. So on March 11, the NTC says that they will allow Abs-Cbn to operate after May, because the expiration or effective expiration of their franchise was going to be May 2020. And the NTC said that it will allow Abs-Cbn to continue to operate even after their franchise expired. And the reason for this is in the past, the NTC has adopted a policy wherein franchises for franchise applications which have expired but have not been decided by Congress whether or not it will be approved or disapproved, the NTC would allow the franchise holder to continue to operate. So that was the existing policy before and up to 2020, the middle of 2020. So that was for NTC saying that it will allow Abs-Cbn to operate even after the expiration of its franchise. They will only tell Abs-Cbn, based on the existing policy at that time, only if Congress says their franchise would be disapproved, okay, or is disapproved, okay. So on May 1, even Speaker Cayetano said that Congress had no intention to shut it down, okay. However, on May 3, Solicitor Calida warned the NTC against granting the provisional authority to Abs-Cbn because actually he was kind of standing on solid ground because that was the law. If you don't have a franchise, you're not supposed to operate. The policy of the NTC is just not based on law, but based on practice, okay? And officially on May 4, the Abs-Cbn franchise expired. Therefore, on May 5, because of the Calida warning to the NTC, the NTC was forced to issue a CDO, cease and desist order, ordering Abs-Cbn to shut down its TV, all its channels. In fact, all its TV channels that are free to air and its radio stations as well. Okay, so they were forced to do that. They went off air. On June 29, Calida again advises the NTC to close. By the way, after May 5, ABS continued to operate its TV Plus, those block boxes that that we popularly know, and of course Channel 43. Channel 43 is a digital channel on the UHF band. By the way, the channels 2 to channel 13 are called the VHF band, and channels 14 all the way to channel 55 or 59, I think, our UHF channel. The VHF channel have stronger signals because while the UHF channels on free-to-air are supposed to have, they need a stronger transmitters to cover the same area. Anyway, so ABS-CBN used channel 43, and they continue to broadcast their programs on channel 2. By the way, the May 5 shutdown was affected, as far as ABS is concerned, is the channel 2 in Metro Manila and their radio station. So they broadcast or they show their programs now on the ABS TV Plus and channel 43. Okay, so that went on for a while, and then until Calida warned NTC that they should also close the issue a CDO against the ABS-CBN TV Plus and channel 43. So again, on the following day, ABS-CBN also shut down ABS-CBN Sky Direct and TV Plus channels. Okay, if you want more clarification later on the technicalities of those, I can discuss, but it's kind of a long story. But let me just continue with this one. And July 11, the House Committee on Legislative Franchise officially denied ABS-CBN. This is even after the Senate and the House committee assured ABS-CBN that they won't be shut down. So you can see there was kind of pressure from Calida and who knows from whom. Okay. The result of the shutdown of both the CDO and the shutdown can be illustrated in this slide. The blue line shows the pre-COVID TV viewing levels. Okay, and then during COVID is the purple line, as I've explained earlier. When COVID hit, when the lockdowns were implemented, TV viewing went up, and you can see the purple line above the blue line. When ABS-CBN shutdown number 1 was implemented, that's channel 2 and their radio station, the free-to-air stations, there is a marked decrease in the TV viewing. That's the green line. And when the TV Plus and the channel 43 were further shut down, that's where the biggest impact was on TV viewing. You'd think that, and this can be shown on the next slide. Okay, this is more illustrated. Okay, pre-COVID, you can see it was about 16.8%. And then during the early days of the lockdown, it went up to 23.5%. And the first shutdown, it went back down to roughly the pre-COVID levels because I guess ABS-CBN was still able to air their programs on the alternative channels. However, as you can see here, not all of the audiences that were loyal to ABS-CBN continued to watch TV. There were really some viewers that just said we're not going to watch TV anymore. So that dropped back to about 15%. And then when ABS-CBN shutdown number 2 occurred, the overall TV viewing went even further down to 13%, so even lower than the pre-COVID levels. You'd think that viewers would shift to GMA, and that's true. As you can see in this slide, the green line shows GMA's viewership. It went up when ABS-CBN shut down, so there were some viewers of ABS-CBN that went to GMA. As well as to TV5. You can see the purple line, which is TV5. There were some gains for TV5. But overall, as you can see in the blue line, overall TV viewing still went down all the way to 3% when the impact of both shutdowns happened. So the conclusion you can get from here is that not some of the TV viewers really just didn't watch linear TV anymore. They switched off from watching either any of the terrestrial free-to-air channels. Okay, this is a slide that shows a percentage share of each of the channels. Pre-COVID, they're almost tied, GMA and ABS. They are way heads and shoulders above all the rest. 34% share for each of them. And then, as you can see here, this is from Nielsen, so GMA is ahead. If it were done by Kantar, maybe I would surmise that the ABS would be ahead. But for all intents and purposes, they were in a virtual tie. The difference is can be considered statistically tied. No? Okay, so pre-COVID and during COVID, before lockdown, they were virtually tied. And then when ABS-CBN shut down, obviously ABS-CBN channel 2 went to 0 and GMA went up to 53% of overall TV share. And then when ABS-CBN shutdown 2 happened, GMA further went up to 63% of total of 100% of the 100%, 63% of 100 TV viewing. Okay. The other gainers, of course, are TV5 and the other news channel of GMA, which is not in existence anymore because that has since gone back to its owner, Channel 11, and now, as you know, it's A to Z, which is has a partnership with ABS-CBN. Okay. While this is happening, ABS and GMA implemented other platforms in order to gain more viewers. Okay. This is the more recent survey that was conducted by Kantar, and as you can see here, the findings of Kantar are very similar to Nielsen. As I said earlier, Nielsen's data is only for the first two quarters of the year, and Kantar's data is for the entire year. So 22% up to 24, and then back down to about 21% for the numbers are slightly different. It was 16 and 20 something, 21 for Nielsen, but in this case it's 22, 24, and then 21. Okay, and then what happened when in the last quarter of the year when A to Z started airing, there was a little gain, as you can see here, for ABS in overall TV viewing, but cannot compensate. I mean, it didn't go back to the pre-COVID level of ABS. So what ABS-CBN experiencing right now is, although some people were saying that if ABS-CBN were able to air its programs on alternative channels, it'll gain back its audience. That didn't happen, as you can see from this slide. Okay, ABS-CBN is still struggling. It has not been able to get back its audience airing on alternative channels. Even average TV spent, average time spent for viewing has been a roller coaster. Pre-COVID is like 2.5 hours. That's 201 minutes per day. That's roughly, it's 3.5 hours, right? 3.5 hours a day, average TV, average time spent a day. Went all the way up to more than 4 hours during the lockdown. And then when ABS-CBN shut down, overall TV viewing time went down to just merely 2.5 hours. So there's an hour less of TV viewing overall because of the ABS-CBN shutdown. That's the same story here, but this is more recent, as shown by Nielsen. So don't have to explain much. Pre-shutdown, it's the gray line. ABS-CBN shutdown is the red line, and then TV Plus. There was some gain, as I said, when ABS-CBN started showing its programs on A to Z, but the impact has not been that great so far. Okay, even on the advertising spend, the numbers are also lower, as you can see if you compare 2019 to 2020. There's been a decline. Obviously, the worst impact was on the Q2 when the lockdown was first implemented, and there was and I think we all of us in the broadcast industry experienced a resurgence of advertising spend towards starting the third quarter and onto the fourth quarter. I'll show you more recent numbers later on. This is a chart showing the map on how heavy the darker numbers would show. It's called the heat map. It shows you how heavy advertising load is on the channels. As you can see, before the shutdown of ABS-CBN, it was pretty loaded. A lot of dark spots there. In fact, I think it was more loaded than GMA, as you can see. However, when the shutdown was implemented, the ABS-CBN is getting nothing, and there were more dark spots for GMA. So a lot of advertising monies went from ABS-CBN to GMA. Just to show you what during COVID, and this is from Kantar, which means it shows you the entire year. Early on, the chart would have shown you a different result, but as the year progressed, a lot of advertisers restarted their campaign. During the early days of the lockdown, the impact was more than 50%. There was a more than 50% reduction in spending. Okay, but as the months went by, a lot of brands started advertising. And as you can see here, some brands actually spent more in 2020 than in 2019. Power detergents, growing up milk. I don't know why shampoo is less. I guess people are not forced to prenup as much as before because they didn't have to go out. Corporate advertising also went up and so forth and so on. So for the most part, there was really a resurgence of advertising activity. The ones that really dropped in their advertising are the ones that are obvious. For example, QSR. These are the quick service restaurants, the fast foods. I think we know them as fast food restaurants. The McDonald's and the Jollibees. You might have heard that the Jollibee declared a huge, I think, ₱1 million loss during the early days of COVID. Other brands also dropped off, but we're quite happy that a lot of advertisers restarted their advertising campaign during the year. Similarly, well, this shows you. This is more in the brands like P&G spent more this year than last year. You know, for some of them, their mindset is, I'm during a crisis, I will try to gain more market share. So P&G, I think, did that. So did Unilab and so forth. No, there are some that initially didn't advertise much, such as Unilever, but I think they tried to catch up during the later part of the year. Okay, so I don't want to go into much details here, but I think Liz, Professor Abanto has a copy of this, and she may want to share this with you later on. Okay. Kantar also came up with their prediction of what will happen to linear TV. Linear TV is what your traditional TV, where there's a fixed time that you can. Linear is as opposed to on-demand TV. Okay, so linear is it's pretty much scheduled. You consume it over the air or through cable channels. Okay, and Kantar is predicting that that linear TV will bounce back because GMA will grow its terrestrial reach, and then the A to Z Kapamilya channel will hopefully rebound and gain more traction. And TV5 is also gaining traction because it's collaborating with other the content providers, including ABS-CBN, Viva Entertainment, and so forth and so on. And satellite TV subscriptions is predicted to also increase. Signal is enjoying some windfall right now because the closure of the direct-to-home satellite TV of ABS-CBN. OTT is fast growing in Southeast Asia. This is over the top means that consumption of media over the internet. That's what it means. Okay, so over the top channels across the region are growing, and including the Philippines. Okay, as you can see here, this survey conducted by Kantar asked the questions as to whether they're going to be increasing their viewing on free-to-air and OTT channels. So this is the result. They're all increasing. So TV is predicted to enjoy some continued resurgence in the coming years. Okay. So some of the OTT channels that you guys are familiar with, which us senior citizens may not. We only know Netflix and so forth and the iFlix, but you mean no view and so forth. Now, so these are predicted to again gain more traction in the coming years. Okay, wandering along now to radio. Okay, during the early days of the shutdown, radio actually improved. The contrary to what happened to TV, the ABS-CBN shutdown didn't affect overall listening on radio. In fact, even after the ABS-CBN radio channels or radio stations were shut down, radio continued to be robust, as you can see in this slide. No, and I think the reason for that is because there are other alternative stations in radio compared. In the case of TV, it's basically duopoly. So their loyalty is more intense, I guess, in the case of TV, but not in radio. As you can see here, overall radio listening from Q2 2019 increased to 466 in Q2 2020. Okay, and that's both for FM and AM. The FM listening is the purple line, and the AM listening is the blue line. There is now more listening on FM. Okay, and this is just a illustration again that the AM radio has increased its reach because I guess people are hungry for information about the pandemic. While across the from Q2 to Q2 2019 to Q2 2020, FM remained steady and increased also during the period. There were also higher listening in terms of time listened. There was an increase in number of hours in listening to radio during the first 2 quarters of the year. And it was marked in during prime time. Again, that's when the news actually is happening. So it shows you that the reason, or this explains the reason why people are listening. It's because they want to know what's happening about COVID and so forth. Huh? And it's driven mainly by some of the stations, as you can see, BB DZRH, the station that is owned by my company, and Radio Veritas have gained a lot of audience during this period. Okay. More recently, Kantar conducted listenership patterns in 3 areas: Mega Manila, Cebu, and Davao. As you can see here, their observation is this: that the listening levels are more or less the same between 2018 and they compare 2018 and 2020. The change was in the shift of listening time. As you can see on the left graph, the AM listeners have delayed the time of listening. And the explanation of Kantar is that people are rising later because they don't have to deal with traffic. Okay, so there's a shift towards the right of listening, but in terms of level of listening, 2020 is higher than the peak the peak in 2018 was higher than the peak in 2020. FM is the same. It's a slight shift to the right. Okay. In the case of Cebu, it's almost a carbon copy of 2019 and 2020. And in the FM, in fact, it's even higher during the prime hours. Okay. This is strange. In Davao, for some reason, there was a marked decrease in AM listening. And we couldn't explain that. I guess people maybe shifted to FM listening. That is the more recent numbers that was given to us by Kantar. On to digital. Okay, as explained in the earlier slides, TV viewing declined because of the shutdown. You can see that in the second quarter. Okay, TV viewing was pretty. That's the blue line. The blue solid line is TV viewing: 95, 96, 96, 92, and then down to about 80%. That's for TV percentage of people, and then radio and print remained steady. the use of digital media increased. As you can see, the red line incidence of reading online news, as I said earlier, that's probably the reason why they're not selling much newspapers and magazines, hard copies of this print media anymore, because people are consuming online reading nowadays. Okay. And the yellow line, which is use internet, the use of internet has risen as well from 70% to 79%, almost the same level as TV viewing. Okay, smartphone and internet ownership has also spiked during the early days of the pandemic. Okay, I guess it's combination of the need to do that, plus the fact that smartphones are going down in price as well. Okay, so smartphone ownership has risen from year to date, from Q2 2019 to Q2 2020, from 70% roughly to 84%. So everyone practically has a smartphone. Again, the usage of internet has grown also, as I said earlier, from 70 to about 79%. Okay. And then the biggest gainers on digital are social media, and of course e-commerce. Okay. So online video calls, movies, email use, browsing, these are all on the rise right now. Okay. As I said, e-commerce is on the rise in terms of popularity. Shopee went up from number 12 to number 7. Lazada went up from number 11 to number 9. Probably their rank is even higher now. This is as of Q2, by the way, Nielsen. Unfortunately, Kantar didn't do a similar study, so we don't have a more recent study on the rankings of the various digital platforms. Okay, newcomer TikTok. Again, this is as of Q2 2020. Is already at a number 8, and my guess is that it's probably in the top 5 at this point. I think there's a lot more people using TikTok right now. Okay, so this is just again a slide that shows you that the digital platforms gaining a lot of ground. Reading online from 12 to 55%, listening to online also gaining from 4 to 12.8%, and the 12 and watching the TV programs online also gaining as well. Okay, this is a more recent. Sorry, this is Kantar. This is pala may recent pala sila. This is in fact week 1, week 2, week 3 up to week 6 of 2021. So you can see here the popular channels. Sorry, TikTok is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's still number 8. I'm sorry. TikTok is still number 8, but the most popular is YouTube and Facebook, of course. No, Facebook Messenger and then Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., etc. So media ad spend in the time of COVID. I'll go into that. As I've explained, during the early years or early days of the pandemic, there was a big decline in spending, specifically on Q2. As you can see here, the decline across all media is 37% for TV. And this is Q2 of 2019 versus Q2 of 2020. TV's 38% drop, radio's 35% drop, and print, unfortunately, suffered the most, 81% drop, outdoor, 19% drop. I didn't even put here cinema because cinema is completely out because cinemas are closed. There's no cinema advertising at all. From whatever they were before, they're down to 0. Okay. And the market share of TV continued to be about 71%. Radio remained steady at 28%. And the other media accounted for 1%, mainly outdoor. TV ad spend before COVID in terms of numbers. By the way, this the numbers here are based on rate card, and let me explain that a little bit. Nielsen or Kantar don't have the actual nego rates. Nego rates are different from the rate card of the networks. So the rate cards are the published rates, and Nielsen only has access to published rates. So the numbers here are based on the rate card or the published rates. The actual numbers will probably be, I mean, the actual spend is going to be much lower than this. This now. So if you look at this, it shows that in 2019 total spend before COVID was 86 billion pesos. The actual number probably is close to maybe 20 to 30 million, a billion. Sorry. Okay. So if you actually use nego rates, it will be probably close to maybe about 30 billion as the total ad spend for Philippines. Okay. So you can see here that there was a drop in 2020. Even pre-COVID, there was a slight drop already, but the drop was more pronounced during COVID, from 80 to 58 billion. And then when ABS-CBN shut down, the drop was even more pronounced to 39 million. The reason for that, you'd normally expect that monies would have gone to GMA and the other networks. That is true. GMA did, as shown in the previous slide, the heat map. GMA actually gained. However, GMA TV cannot absorb all the lost spots of ABS. Otherwise, it'll be showing probably 40 minutes of advertising per hour, and that's not acceptable. Okay. But for sure, GMA gained revenues from the shutdown of ABS-CBN. So did the other networks, including our network and the other networks. But the absorptive capacity of the other networks is not enough to absorb all the lost revenues from ABS-CBN. Okay. This is just a further illustration of what I was talking about. In other words, TV revenues dropped because of two events, COVID and the shutdown. Radio dropped only because of COVID, not because of the shutdown. But the print suffered the most, as you can see in this slide. Okay. See, the decline of TV is higher than radio. Okay, because that's a combination of COVID and ABS-CBN shutdown. Now, more recent data. This is based on my own company. As you can see here, the blue line, and I think this is kind of indicative of the entire industry. Okay, just to show you how we're performing over the months prior and after COVID, no? Okay, and after shutdown. The blue line shows you the normal line. That's the 2019 graph in terms of level of revenues. That the orange line is the 2020. So even before COVID, there was a slight decline already in revenues. In the case of radio, it's because some advertisers have not decided to allocate a lot of money yet on radio. Okay, but when COVID happened, you can see the drop. That was enough. But by the time that ABS-CBN shut down, there was slight improvement already. Not quite the same as 2019, but as you can see here, by about August, September, we're back to normal. And in fact, for the last quarter of the year, we were doing better than the previous year already. The red line already crossed the blue line. So we did, from September, the last 4 months of the year of 2020, we were doing as well, if not better, than the previous year. And that pattern continued on until January, February, and even March. The March numbers are not complete yet. It shows slightly lower than, so far, slightly lower than last year, but March is not complete yet. So we predict that even March of this year will be better than March of last year. So we're back, broadcast is back, as I was saying earlier. Okay, talking now about broadcast digital transformation, the pandemic. That's one thing that the COVID did for all of us. We were broadcast is already in a transition mode, in a digital transformation mode. It's happening not only in the Philippines. In fact, it happened in first world countries first, where digital is now becoming a must-go-to platform for advertisers, and we just had to follow that. We were in the process of doing that already, and what the pandemic did for us is just to accelerate the process. Okay, let me just have a caveat here. The things that I'm going to mention here about digital transformation is based on my point of view of my company, which is Manila Broadcasting Company. But I think the industry is moving in the same direction. A lot of our competitors are doing the same thing. Of course, we have different levels of capabilities. The bigger networks are more advanced than the smaller networks. Okay. So before I go into that, let me just, since you're broadcast students, and hopefully you'll be broadcast practitioners in the future. You know, in the old days, during my time, the logic of the industry was described this way. You have to deliver to advertisers the most number of viewers or listeners in the most efficient manner. So we were the metrics for that were mainly GRPs, or gross rating points. You just have to have the highest ratings. You should be number one or in the top, whatever, top five among all radio or TV stations in every location that you're operating. And you have to deliver the highest GRP at the lowest cost. That was the only thing that you have to remember. So when you go to the client, you say, "Oh, my cost is so much, and I can deliver you so much audience." Now the advertisers and our clients are more demanding. Okay, the logic now has changed from that simple logic to now you have to deliver to advertise the most number of viewers and listeners, catering to their target audience, not just any audience, but to their target audience in the most efficient way. So from GRP, we have to now deliver TARPs, or target audience rating points. So if the target market of a brand, let's say a liquor brand, would be predominantly male, let's say 30 and above, you have to deliver to that liquor brand the highest TARP, the highest rating points for that particular audience. Again, at the lowest cost per thousands. Okay. Lowest CPM. In addition to that, that's just on the terrestrial broadcast part. Now, in addition to that, we have to provide additional media values through what we call below-the-line initiatives, endorsements, activation, events, promos, concerts, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just your thematic spots that you have to deliver. Now you have to deliver other stuff. You have to have your announcers endorsing products. You have to have concerts. You have to have movie premieres given to your audiences where they can expose their brands additionally on ground. Okay. In addition, we now also have to provide creative and production services. In a lot of cases, especially with advertisers who don't have advertising agencies who can provide them with creative services, broadcast companies now have to do that for them. Okay, again at the lowest cost. And we also have to follow the audience's platforms, including digital platforms. Okay, so that's so the broadcast industry has become a little bit more complicated than it used to be. Okay, we're predominantly radio, although my company is predominantly radio right now. Although we're already on TV, we have a cable TV in Manila. We're also operating 3 free-to-air channels, digital channels in Cebu, Bacolod, Iloilo. But we're not those. We're just starting that. But so my company now is predominantly radio. Although again, as I said, we're transitioning to TV already, but we're not in TV in a big way yet. We will be doing that as soon as we get our permit to operate a TV station in Mega Manila, and hopefully that'll be soon. We've applied for a TV channel 10 years ago, and hopefully we'll get that this year or next year. Okay. So if you talk about radio, what you probably know is that it's an audio medium that informs, entertains, and delivers public service, audibly only. Okay, and the format would be news, public affairs, dramas, soap operas, and on FM it'll be mainly music and talk. Okay. Now we have to, as because of the demands of the clients, we do on-ground offerings. So from purely on the air, we also are now present on ground. And this started maybe 10, 15 years ago, I think maybe even 20 years ago. So we do a lot of events. Liz is familiar with this. She was our neighbor in CCP, and we do these major events, Aliwan Fiesta, choral competition, things like that. And we do fun runs, and we do major concerts for clients like Tanduay, San Miguel, etc., etc. So we do these things already. We're not just in the studios doing our usual stuff. We now have to do this for our clients. Okay, these are some other types of on-ground activations. We do a lot of promos where you have millions and millions of entries and so forth and so on. No? Then okay. This creative production I mentioned earlier. So we do branded and unbranded songs for clients. We also now are on digital. We do creatives for digital executions, static, as well as digital video. So we actually do this now. We have a digital department that does video shoots. We have our own digital video studios already. On location shoot and on studio shoots already for clients. Okay. So the digital transformation started for us about 8 to 10 years ago, and it means improving our websites, better audio video streaming, especially for our provincial stations. Our middle stations are doing quite well, but the transformation that we need to accelerate now is really targeting our provincial stations. By the way, we have about a total of 200 stations, 4 of which are in Metro Manila, and the rest of the stations are scattered all over the country. The website should have better interaction with audiences and better influencers, influencer engagement, and more unique content production. So, okay. We also are very, this is dated a little bit, no? So we are very active in social media. Our brands in Metro Manila are Love Radio, Yes the Best, Easy Rock, and DZRH. And you can see our community here. We're still continue to build. The RH community, as of last count, has really gone up. Based on our meeting, yes, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to update this. It's already in the 2 to 3 million level already, from 236,000 for RH. We're now up to between 2 to 3 million community on FB. Okay, we're very strong on FB and Twitter. But the number one platform that we are in is really on Facebook. Okay. We're trying to improve our YouTube as well. Love Radio is ahead compared. By the way, we're market leaders on digital as far as radio is concerned. I know TV is a different matter. ABS, I think, is the leader on TV. Okay. So on social media, we have more influencers content, more interaction, and more quickly. Deliver what the audiences want. So we're very active in social media. Okay, we sometimes create pocket executions, such as Experts' Opinion on DZRH Television. That's a cable channel, and it reaches up millions and millions of views, and without boosting the reach, goes all the way up to 150 million. This Expert's Opinion. Okay. Social TV is something that we started about 3 years ago, although we paused it because of the fire that hit our studios. But essentially what happens here is that for our FM stations, they just don't do the normal. No? In the old days, what our FM jocks would do would be play music, and then when there's a commercial gap, they'll do the talk, and then they'll lead into the commercial. Now it's completely different. We now have social TV where during the time they play the music, they do other things, like the jock on the top top left. Actually, I think she is trying to engage her digital audience, talking about LDR. I think that means long distance relationship or something like that. And then the bottom picture shows the jock while playing music, while the over the air audience is listening to music. The online audience is engaged in another manner, now interviewing a guest. No, in some cases we do tips, like makeup tips, or there was a time where we even did online selling during the time we're playing music. So the announcers and disc jockeys on FM radio now are much busier than they used to be. Okay, in the old days, as I said, once the music starts playing, they do nothing. Now they do a lot more while the music's playing. Okay, we also have created apps for our different brands, and we continue to improve the brands, the apps. And now, as I will show later on, we are incorporating gaming apps in our brand apps. Okay. Influencer marketing is something that we've started initially online. I'm sure you're familiar with influencer marketing. It's mainly endorsing product by your influencers, and you're familiar. I guess you're more familiar with social media stars, diba? They are influencers. They make a lot of money pushing products, pushing brands. They're paid by brands. Even if they didn't have a terrestrial platform, even they're just using their on-air platform, and we've started doing that over the air, and now we're also transitioning influencer marketing in our digital platform, and we're telling advertisers why they should our digital assets. That's because we have community, and we can drive to our digital sites using our on-air assets. Okay. These are some of our influencers and some of their community, but that continues to grow. I don't know if you're familiar with some of these people. These are our Love Radio jocks. Okay, I think the most popular here would be Nicole Yara and Chris Chaper, and so forth. Okay, and then these are our Yes the Best jocks. Okay, and these are our Easy Rock jocks. Easy Rock is mainly a music station. There's less talk here. So you'd imagine that their community is lower than the other ones, but again, their community continues to grow. Okay, COVID impact on operations. Okay, what did COVID do to our operations? Well, because of the lockdown, a lot of our people were forced to work. Up to this time, actually, most of our office staff are still working from home. There were really initial challenges that were kind of difficult to solve. For example, on the on the finance side, billings and collections was a major challenge. Some of the clients will not accept e-billings, so they wanted their hard copies of the billings and their certificate of performances. So that was a challenge, and when people are not going to work, that would have been a challenge. But we since have been able to solve that. No? The on-air challenge was also another thing for FM, since they were not going to the studios. What we had to do is to record their jock talk, and they would email their material to the technicians, and the technicians took care of airing the jock talk and playing the commercials, etc., etc. So it was it was the most important people in the organization at this time are our engineers and our technicians, because they're the ones who are actually running the station. So the announcers, this jockeys would record. Initially, we were recording in a studio, but eventually, since most of them are working from home, we had to equip them with necessary tools, mics and recording consoles, etc., so that they can record better quality materials. So that was being done from the start of the lockdown, and up to now. By the way, we're still doing it because of the fire that gutted our studios. We are still there was a delay in the rebuilding of our studios, and we expect the studios to be ready by middle of next month. So we are expected to go live on air in our studios by next month. That's for the FM studios. But on the AM, initially, a lot, even our announcers on AM were working from home. Some of them. There were some who were brave enough to go to the studios, and they did live shows in our studios here. Okay. So there was less work from home situations in the AM studio, in the AM operations than in the FM. In the provinces, there was not much of a problem because we didn't suffer fire there, so it was more normal there. But the method of operations is similar to what we did in Manila. They were also recording their jock talks in their homes and then sending it to the technicians. Okay. News gathering was difficult, as you might imagine, at the early stages of the lockdown. There were, and that's because there were some that were not going to work. There were some that actually got infected. We got 2 serious cases of infection during the early that they almost died. Fortunately, they survived after spending, I think, 6 weeks in the hospital. But what the KBP did, there was an initiative in the KBP where we said, because a lot of our announcers are not able to go out in the field and work, one of our directors suggested a news pooling arrangement where all of our news materials was thrown into a pool, and any network who wanted to use any of the materials would be free to do that. So that's what we did as an adaptive mechanism to help out in the depletion of our news reporters in the field. That's been normalized since about maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So we're back to normal. The news pooling has since been suspended because it's not necessary anymore. Okay. For our on-ground events, obviously we had to suspend them. We're not allowed to do that. In fact, our video shoots had to, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there was a controversy about restrictions being imposed on video shoots, not only for broadcast, but across all platforms, especially film and filmmaking, filming of commercials and so forth and so on. And the reason for this is because the order came from the Lisa Dino's, ano pangalan nun na Liz? Film development, okay, they issued certain protocols that said should be followed when doing shoots, and the industry was up in arms against it because the Film Development Council of the Philippines, FDCP, its mandate is not about shoots. Its mandate is about promoting Filipino films. In other words, promoting it through film festivals and promoting our films, Filipino films abroad as well. No, so nevertheless, what happened is that the industry itself, the advertising industry and the broadcast industry, came up with its own rules, and this issue even went all the way up to the Senate because Senator Soto, who is as we all know, who is a broadcaster and filmmaking and an actor, filming of commercials, that what FDCP did was an overextension of its mandate. Okay, so but essentially what I'm saying here is that all our activities on ground had to be suspended. Our promos, our Aliwan fiestas, our concerts and so forth and so on had to be suspended, and we're not doing any of those for the meantime. Okay, on digital, as I said, the shoots are suspended. We started doing shoots again under GCQ, but again following strict protocols promulgated by the industry. Okay, all the others are quite normal, and for the most part, we're operating normally right now. Although last week we just had a case of a couple of employees again contracting COVID, so we're quarantining some of our employees again. Okay. This was mentioned earlier. The consumption of TV of broadcast AM grew during COVID. Digital grew a lot more, and I already mentioned that COVID accelerated our timetable on digital transformation. We were supposed to transform all of our stations in 3 years. Now we have to do that over a period of 1 year, and we're on the way of doing that. The transformation in Manila is almost done. It's really the provincial that needs to be accelerated. Okay, and instead of doing on-site events, on-ground events, we're now doing online games, events, promos, and other integrated campaigns. And I'm going to show you some examples of those. For example, instead of having our Aliwan Fiesta, where you have tens of thousands of dancers in the streets and a beauty contest from all over the Philippines, represented by beauties from all over the Philippines. And we also had float competition. We had to do with a beauty contest, but it was done digitally, and we called it the Aliwan Fiesta Digital Queen. Okay, and it's quite a success. You know, we were able to do an organic reach of 4.9 million by the time we were rounding this up. The impressions 5.8, so we did quite well. So now instead of doing it, as I said, on ground, we're doing this events on digital. Okay, gaming apps. Our ad and promo department that used to do creatives and all that, they had to reinvent themselves. Here we used existing gaming apps, and then we contracted a third-party developer and our homegrown. Those are the ad and promo people now. Okay, these are use of existing game apps, Mobile Legends. We do that, and we sell that to clients. So that's something that's part of what we do now on radio. Okay, we ask a third-party game developer called Blimo to improve our existing app. As I mentioned earlier, we are existing apps now. For audiences to have a more compelling reason to visit our apps, we thought that incorporating a game app would be a good one. So we are now in the process of finishing up our commissioned game apps into our regular apps, into our brand apps. Okay, and we should be launching that within the next quarter. Okay. And then, as I said earlier, since our artists in our ad and promo department are not doing much working from home, they've reinvented themselves, and now they're doing what we call homegrown hyper casual games, and they've developed, I think, 3 already, and we've sold we've implemented this first one. This is called Jackpot Runner, and this was sold to clients. So we're making money out of the game apps that were developed by our artists now. Okay, we're trying to reinvent our send-in promos into a digital promo as soon as we're able to come up with a solution to verifying the authenticity of the proof of purchase. Okay, we do a lot of online game shows right now. So I'll just go very quickly. So these are some of the events that we're doing. Okay, very quickly. Puro digital ngayon. Okay, so that's about it. What we know, what we've been doing, and now just on the last part of my discussion today, because I was asked to talk a little bit about the congressional franchises and press freedom. I think the reason why I was requested to talk about this is there's a lot of uh, talk that the reason why the franchises or the franchise of ABS-CBN was denied was a press freedom issue. Okay, so let me just again put a caveat here. No, news versus opinion. What I'm going to talk here, what I've been talking about before this slide is all facts. Okay, in other words, all of the information I've given you so far is facts. Okay, they were a result of a survey of Kantar Nielsen and data coming from the industry. Those are facts. What we're going to be discussing now will probably be more towards opinion. Okay, so and the second point I'm going to make is that there are always two sides to every argument, including the issue of whether democracy is better than, as a form of government, democracy is better than communism, because that's something that is very prominent right now. The government has been running after the communists, particularly the NPA. And the NPA continue to espouse their own brand of government. No? So going to the ABS-CBN issue, again, there are two sides to it. Okay. KBP, and I was at the front of it. I attended those hearings in Congress. I was espousing, in behalf of the industry, the renewal of the franchise. Okay. I thought, in fact, I wrote an article about this, and I thought that the ABS obviously has to be renewed because it was serving or it was a major contributor to nation building and so forth. Especially during the time of COVID, it was contributing a lot to the information dissemination about the COVID and so forth. So it was a very important component of the industry, not only the broadcast industry but the news industry in general. Okay. The other side of the argument from the detractors of ABS-CBN is that ABS-CBN was violating the law. Okay, so that's why they did not renew their franchise. Right? According to the detractors of ABS-CBN, it was not complying with the tax law. It was not a tax avoidance, but a violator of our tax laws. It was also non-compliant with some of the labor laws, etc., etc. Okay, and of course the press organizations said that this was an issue of press freedom. It was stifling one of the most important members of the press community. Okay, so again, two sides of the argument. My opinion is that ABS-CBN should have been granted a franchise, even if it were in the violation of some laws. It did not merit the denial of the renewal. If at all, it would have merited some fines, some penalties, and all that. One of the things that it was accused of was it violated NTC rules. And if you go by, again, the rules in the NTC, those violations would have merited some fines, and they could have easily paid that. So whether it's a press freedom issue or not, it probably was. But if you ask again the detractors, they would always say it's not. Okay, the denial was because it violated a lot of things. My opinion is, sure, they violated certain things, a law or certain rules, certain laws, but it did not merit a denial of the renewal of the franchise. Okay, still on the two sides of every argument. I don't know why I put it here. Even the drug war, the drug war is a two-sided argument again. No, for some reason, when surveys are conducted about whether the drug war is okay or not, there is majority of the respondents say they are in favor of the drug war. And the other strange thing is, in spite of all that has happened, the approval rating of the president has continued to remain quite high. I think this is unprecedented. Okay. However, if you ask the families of the victims, obviously, they would say the drug war is a failure. It's a human rights violation, and so forth and so on. So there are again two sides to this. In fact, some of the civil society would say users should be considered victims. They should be rehabilitated. They should not be killed. So I kind of agree with that. I think we're the only country where tokhang has become a kind of a norm. No? And I think, and this is the last point I'm going to make, policy always is set by the leader in every organization, whether it's a government, whether it's an NGO, whether it's a corporation. The policy and the tenor, the atmosphere of that organization, of that government is always set by the president, right? Whether it's the president of the Philippines, president of the US, or any other president, it's always set by the leader. And all the government bureaucrats, all the technocrats, military, police, etc., unfortunately or fortunately, unfortunately, would have to follow such policy. Okay, and the policy seems to be for the president is, let's fight the drug war to the end. Let's kill whoever is violating. Abs-Cbn has violated the law, so let's shut it down, and let's kill the communist. So yun lang po. And then if you want to discuss this more, I'm more than willing to do that. And that's, I think, my last slide. So maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Sir June Nicdao. Well, we thought the pandemic was just going to bring us only all but black or negative pictures. But apparently from your sharing with us, it pushed you, especially like the Manila Broadcasting Company, and I'd like to believe all the other stations are now being pushed to become more, or propelled to become more creative, more innovative, and to jump into the digital platforms. And we're very lucky that we've had you this afternoon. You were able to share with us some information that we would not have otherwise been able to access. Not yet, Camille. we would not have been able to access, because most of these were just provided to station managers. I'd just like to inform you that right now we are being also live streamed on Facebook Live of the Far Eastern University. I'd like to thank Mr. Christian Ibasco for helping us with that, and of course all the technical people of the education technology of the Far Eastern University. And you're not only being viewed or listened to by students and teachers from Far Eastern University, but I'd like to acknowledge Lester Chico, Mark Lester Del Mundo Chico of UP Lisbon is also watching. Of course, your friend Rose, Rose, is watching, as well as we have another Rose from Holy Name University, all the way from Bohol. Also watching us are from St. Scholastica's College, Salvacion Dorado, and from La Consolacion, Dr. Eileen Castro. And of course, watching from UP Diliman, we also have our own Cherish Billion. Well, she was with us before, and a couple of others. And definitely would like to share this video presentation you've had. At this point, we would now like to move to the open forum. Now, I would like to invite everyone. You can please turn on your cameras. If you would like to raise a question, kindly first, if those in Zoom, raise your hand so I can acknowledge. Meanwhile, all those watching us outside of the Zoom, you have access to Facebook. I'm monitoring now the Facebook, and so I will also call or I will acknowledge your questions. Meanwhile, those on Zoom, you may open, once I acknowledge and call your name, kindly open your camera as well as your microphone. So you may conduct the open forum in English or Tagalog. If it's going to be in Cebuano, fine, I can translate for you. Anyway, I suppose Sir Jun Nicdao knows a little about the Visayan language because we reach as far as Visayas and Mindanao. All right, so may I now have the hands of the people who would probably want to raise the first few questions? Can I see the hands now? Hold on, let me put it on gallery. All right, now we have the first question to be raised by Brian Pacheco. Okay, Brian, Camille, you can spotlight Brian. Brian, you may put on your cam and your mic, please.
Okay po. Good afternoon po, Sir Nicdao. Thank you po for giving us this time po. But my question po is this po. Are there any big stations that still provide 15-second advertisements po? And what do they benefit po? What do those stations benefit from accepting 15-second ads po?
There are actually the decision as to the length of the advertisement is not decided by the station. It's the advertisers, you know. And to your question, yes, we accept 15. The normal length of advertising materials are 15, 30, and 60 seconds. Okay, so the benefit, of course, is that for the advertiser, if they don't have much budget, the 15-second advertisement material would be cheaper because it's shorter. So the advantage of advertisers, it's cheaper. They don't have to spend as much, no. And for the stations themselves, it's opportunity to get those advertisers that cannot afford to pay as much. So in a direct answer, yes, shorter advertising materials are accepted and it benefits both the stations and the advertiser.
Okay po. Thank you po, sir. And lastly din po, I have about your last topic pa about press freedom din po. Kasi yung din po, I'm having trouble lang din po if thinking that the ABS-CBN is a press freedom issue or they did violate the law. I did acknowledge naman that they did violate the law, but from your sharing din po, I also acknowledge that in this point of view that the punishment does not befit the crime. Tama po. In my point of view po, how do you deal with that? How do you what does this mean for the future po of journalism and broadcasting po?
Well, thank you for that question. Definitely it impacted among not only among a lot of journalists, especially the journalists in the broadcast industry. And the reason for that is it shows you there's a sword hanging over your head. It's not as much probably in the print media because there's a difference. In broadcast, you need a franchise and you need government to approve your franchise, as in the case of ABS-CBN. So if you're on the wrong side of the government, you might get into trouble. That's the message you get here. So in a sense, it's a press freedom issue because it gives you a chilling effect on what can happen to your network if you don't toe the line, so to speak. No, and that is, as I mentioned earlier, that's less of a law issue. It's more of a policy issue of the leader. Diba? I mean, ABS-CBN was also very critical of other administrations, but it didn't get into trouble as much as they did now, because the other leaders probably we didn't have this kind of a policy. Kasi the leader what we have right now is pagkaaway mo ko, I mean that's just my opinion. Pagkaaway mo ko, you're either my friend or my enemy. There are no in-betweens. That's just my opinion. Like, okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. And
Thank you
I'd
po.
just like to add a little bit to that. When we asked, there was one other incident that the press freedom was threatened, and we did ask the help of KBP or through Sir Jun Nicdao for them to issue a statement, and they did. No, so what we're glad about is that KBP actually defends the right of broadcast stations to be free from any pressures from government or even perhaps even big corporations. So we would like to thank Sir Junik Dao and the KBP for that. And of course, because we're academicians, we're really hoping that other than the university speaking up, we have industry players also saying, no, you just cannot mess up, no, and meddle with the freedom of the press. Okay, thank you anyway. I'd like to, before I call in the three other students, I'd like to raise a question asked now by Mark Lester Del Mundo Chico of UP Los Baños. He asked rather, Sir June, how can we support or what support has KBP been providing DepEd in its educational media initiatives?
Again, that's a thank you for asking that. Early on, actually, we were engaged by not only DepEd but by the ICT. We had meetings with the various officers of the ICT in trying to make available broadcast facilities for the purpose of distance education. Okay, so what the initiative that we did based on their request was to identify networks and stations willing to provide airtime to this effort, and we did that. We wrote a circular and we got responses from all our members, and we gave that to DepEd and the ICT. Unfortunately, it was kind of the way it was being handled by DepEd, and I have to be just be candid about this. No, it was kind of convoluted. We didn't know what they were. So we did provide the information, but as to a kind of coordinated and well-organized approach to using broadcast for distance education was not done properly, in my opinion. Okay, that's one. Number two, the planning should have been done much earlier. When they engaged us, it was kind of a few weeks or a couple of months before the deadline. So there was not enough time to prepare. And the third, and I think this is more important, no, that a one-way form of education, which is broadcast, because there's no feedback from the audience, is not the most effective way to teach our students. I think, in my opinion, the best obviously is still digital through the internet, and I understand why this is not available to everyone. Not the internet coverage in some areas is spotty. But to the question, yes, we did. We got engaged, and we complied, and there were some that are actually implemented, but in my opinion, I think it's not an effective way of doing distance education.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir June and Chico. Now we will entertain one question from the students. May I call in Sam? Sam, put on your cam and your mic, please.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon po. Again, thank you
Afternoon,
po
Sam.
for being with us po today. So my question po is, amid COVID-19, how can the Philippine broadcasting system as a whole show its versatility in terms of responding to the challenges brought by this pandemic? Thank you po.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, from the start of the pandemic, in fact, before the lockdown was even implemented, the KBP was already in partnership with the government. Even before the lockdown, I remember we had a meeting with Secretaries Duque and Martin and Danar in Malacanang, no? And they invited us precisely to request the broadcasters to help in the information dissemination of anything about COVID. And we readily said we are more than willing, more than willing to do this. And that was the Laging Handa initiative, the public service announcements, and all that. We agreed through an MOA to do that. So I don't know if you've noticed that there was a daily briefing by the government called Laging Handa, and when it started, a lot of our FM AM stations, if not all, in Metro Manila, and TV stations actually covered it simulcast the Laging Handa briefing. So the problem kasi with government stations is that their audiences are kind of limited. But if you engage the private stations, you'd really expand your audience. So we did that. So we continued that for many months now, and then it even mutated into covering also the press briefing of the spokesperson of the president, no, si Secretary Roque. So from Laging Handa, we continued on to simulcast the press briefing. So aside from that, we aired all the public service announcements produced by the government, everything about COVID, no, the health protocols, even how you get your amelioration, how business can get help. Even the Department of Agriculture had its own public service announcements on how farmers can get help in their farms. The DTI had public service announcements on how businesses can get help in terms of loans, in terms of whatever. No, so the other week I actually took a look at all the circulars that we issued to all our members, and I counted 33 circulars over the past 12 months, and I counted the number of public service announcements that were given to us by the government. I counted over 60 public service announcements that we've aired since the start. The latest are 5 sets of radio public service announcements dealing now with the vaccination. So as we speak, we're airing public service announcements all about vaccination. And the other thing is, we were requested by the IETF to keep on harping the health protocols. In fact, what they wanted to do is every advertising material, sabi nila, we have to remind people about washing of hands, distancing, mask, etc., etc. And we told them, medyo overkill naman yon, because that's going to be a tune out factor for broadcast, no? Because if every time you hear an announcement you say wash hands, blah blah blah. So what we agreed on was every end of a commercial gap, we will air the reminder, and we continue to do that up to now. So if you talk about the broadcast industry holding in the government's hand in helping out the COVID in the COVID crisis, I think we've never done as much public service announcements and coverage of government programs as much as we did in the time of COVID.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sir June. Sir June, this will date me because I remember during the martial law period, if broadcast stations air public service announcements, they get tax credits. Are they giving you tax credits at this time?
That's a good question. We still continue to get tax credits, Liz, but not this time. We did not even ask for that. We were supposed to, because we thought this is our contribution to helping the country fight this pandemic. If we had to charge tax credit, it will be in the siguro tens of billions of pesos worth of tax credits, and we didn't even charge that.
Okay, so it's purely public service.
It's all public service. But it's not just radio; it's also on TV, Liz. And it's not just government that approached KBP. We also have a partnership with. I don't know if you've heard the Ingat Angat Ingat Angat movement, which is a conglomeration of big private enterprises, including Ayala, Smart, the PLDT, the SM Group, even competitors, diba? Shell, etc., etc. They came up with the public service announcements on how we can reopen the economy safely, and we've been airing those public service announcements as well, because it's in the interest of every Filipino that we end this pandemic and we're able to open the economy, because a lot of people are suffering. In fact, a lot more people are suffering not from the disease itself, but from the economic impact of the disease.
That's good to hear. Okay, now I'm going to raise the question here of kanina nag-senior moment ako. Sabi ko, Rose, your friend. Okay, nag-senior moment
Rose
ako.
Feliciano ba?
Yes, of course. Well, biglang nag-senior
It
moment.
wasn't in the call. I'm not sure it was in the call.
Yeah. But there, I told her there were two Roses. Rose, the other one is from Holy Name University. Rose Basileros. But Rose is actually also Feliciano was also watching. But now she has this
Rose
question.
could have given this talk herself, actually.
Yeah, next time I'll have you both, no? Okay, this pertains to a KBP. She said ABS is no longer has a franchise. So what therefore is its status with KBP, since membership to KBP requires a franchise? If it is no longer a member, what is the implication to KBP?
Okay. Firstly, we had a discussion in the board, I think about three months ago, about the status of ABS. In fact, it was brought up, and we consulted our lawyers, our legal counsel in KBP, and the legal counsel of the Standards Authority. Rose is familiar with this because she was a member of the Standards Authority of the KBP, which is the quasi-judicial body for self-regulation of the KBP. Anyway, the status of ABS-CBN is that it's still a member, and the reason for that is there is a provision in our bylaws that a member can continue to be a member within 2 years after it loses its franchise. So in effect, it's like giving a window of opportunity for them to correct what is not present, which is the fact that they don't have a franchise. So within 2 years from the time they lost their franchise, or from the time they lost their franchise, they have 2 years to prove to KBP that they will acquire their franchise. That's why they need to apply for a new franchise, and hopefully within that 2 years they can acquire that. Otherwise, they lose their membership in the KBP as well. So the status of ABS-CBN, it continues. By the way, it continues to be a content creator, airing its programs on other channels, as you know. But Rose is right. KBP membership actually requires a franchise. However, there's a provision in our bylaws that says that if you lose your franchise, you have 2 years to correct it, and that's in effect what we're observing right now.
Thank you, Surgeon. Only an insider from KBP would be able to raise that question or issue. All right, let me call in the next question from Yuki de la Cruz. Yuki, kindly switch on your cam and your mic, please.
Hi, Yuki.
Hello, good afternoon po, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity for this webinar. I want to ask regarding the ratings presented earlier. Despite the high ratings of radio stations presented from the chart, are there still stations that shut down because of the COVID-19 situation?
As far as I know, there are no, at least from the KBP standpoint, I don't know of any station that shut down because of COVID. The broadcasters are very resilient. There are quite a number of broadcasters that aren't actually not making money, especially those who are operating in small markets, places like maybe Tawi-Tawi and things like that. No, but to them, and this is what we've heard from broadcasters themselves, the reason why they continue to operate is really for public service, number one, and to some extent because They want to be there when elections come. Okay, but the number one reason is really they're there for a reason. The reason is public service and serving the community. So to your question, COVID fortunately has not caused any shutdown of any station.
Okay, thank you, Yuki. So, June, in the past, no, when it's nearing elections, in fact, we see that there are more provincial stations that would crop up.
I
Is
don't.
this again coming up?
Oh, yeah,
Will this be
absolutely. In fact,
fixed?
we continue to complain to the NTC because this
Mhm.
what you're talking about are illegal stations.
Yes, fly-by-night
Yeah.
operations.
Correct. What happens is that before the elections, some what we call them pirate illegal stations just crop up, and they're being we surmise they're being put up by political interest, no
Mhm.
parties or candidates who just wanted to use these stations for elections, election purpose, and then either they continue for a while and then shut down again. And we continued. We every time we have a report of such cases, we immediately inform the NTC. And the NTC, in fairness to them, they'll go investigate and endeavor to shut down these illegal stations. You know, on the business side, this illegal stations actually don't make any money. They don't send advertising. They just do it for the purpose of promoting the candidacy of certain candidates. But to your question, yes, it's happening. It's happened in the last election. It happened in 2016, and it continues to happen up to today. We just got a report the other day. There's a 107.1 in that's being heard in Metro Manila. There's supposed to be no station on that frequency. So we continue to get a lot of reports all over the country.
So you mean to say, sir, these were not granted franchises?
Nope.
These
No,
frequencies were illegally occupied?
absolutely. Yes. They just buy a transmitter, turn it on, and they start broadcasting. And when they're caught, what the NDC should be doing is really to find out where that station is operating, and they'll confiscate the transmitters and all the other broadcast paraphernalia. But in a lot of cases, when they feel the heat from the NTC, they'll move their location. They're a lot of times very hard to track down. So that continues to happen. Liz.
No, that's going to be a challenge then. All right.
It is. It's a continuing challenge. Yeah.
More so if, let's say, people from the administration right now are backing them up.
You actually hit
Oh,
the nail on the head.
all right. Okay. So it's for you now to make conclusions. Okay. Now we have a question from Cherish Bilon. Actually, what you've shared with us, especially the initiatives of the Manila Broadcasting Company, has more or less reaffirmed the move of Far Eastern University to tweak its offering of communication, and we divided the track into convergent media and digital cinema. Okay, so hopefully we are
Well,
in
I'm
the
glad
right
you're doing
track.
that. We need that.
Yeah, that's why I think we will be connecting more with you. So the question of Dr. Cherish Billion, because she was once with us at FEU and she was instrumental when we created the new program. And her question is, what drove the station to engage in more promotional advertising related activities, especially as part of its online content?
Okay. Well, it's all market driven. It's what the market is requiring from us. In other words, as I mentioned earlier, we need to be more hardworking. We are gone are the days where what you deliver to the clients is your just thematic spots. Hindi na ganon. They look for a lot of other engagements, and if they cannot find it from you, they'll go somewhere else. Okay. So they're looking for online engagement or on-ground engagement first and foremost. If you cannot do it, then they will go to third-party contractors. They will go to events contractor, etc. On ground. On digital, if you don't do it, there are a lot of other providers. There are thousands, if not millions, of potential digital platforms that any ordinary person, anyone in this call, in fact, can be an influencer. Just come up with something crazy that is that is going to be followed by a lot of interested, lunatics out there. I mean, I'm just saying that in a in levity, but some of those digital platforms right now don't even make sense to you, Liz and I. But for an audience, they make a lot of sense. I'll give you an example. There's I don't know if you've heard about. You probably have heard about this, or maybe have even seen. There's a girl in Santa Rosa, Laguna who does unboxing of toys. I don't know if you've heard that. She makes I think hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pesos a month just doing that, because she has a lot of people watching her unbox toys, and expressing happiness of a child. I guess she's not too much of a child anymore, so I don't know if she's still doing that, but that's an example of how digital is evolving. It can be anything. There are a lot of influencers that you and I may not be aware of, but they have their own channel that gain thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of followers. For the men out here, you might have heard Alawi. What's her name? She has 12 million followers, and her main platform is digital. And I guess she's probably transitioning now to maybe traditional media. But a lot of these influencers start as digital influencers. Some just do makeups and all that and things like that, and they become popular. They get noticed by the platform, by Facebook or YouTube and all that, and they suddenly start seeing money in their bank accounts. So to the question, if you don't do that, if we don't do that, somebody else will. So you need to be where, as I said earlier, you need to follow the audience where they are in order to be relevant to your client.
Thank you, Surgeon. But I think the advertising industry is crying foul. Like they were worried. Like in the past, like if you want a creative material created for a client, you go to an advertising agency. But apparently, broadcasting stations are even offering now the creative and production services. So they said you're eating from you're taking from our clientele.
Yes.
So is there any quarrel between advertising and the broadcasting producers?
That's an issue that's been brought up in fact in one of the ad congresses a few years ago. It's not just the broadcast companies doing creative services. It's also even in fact the biggest thing that some of the advertising agencies are worried right now is the fact that they might become irrelevant in this age of influencer marketing. Why? Because some brands are actually going straight to the influencer now. They don't have to go to an agency anymore. So if you're, let's say, a brand that wants to target the audience of an influencer that's popular to your target market, why do you have to go to an agency to do that? You can actually talk to that person and say, I want to engage you, and I want you to do this and that. So the agencies could become relevant in that sense. But however, my own prediction is that the agencies will still have a place to or a purpose in life. You will I mean, a lot of the big companies still require creative thinking. This is advertising is very competitive. You have to get the best creative minds out there, so they will continue to be relevant to big advertisers. But there are certain services that I agree with you. Certain services that may become irrelevant to the advertising so far as agencies are concerned.
Or so perhaps when the client is looking for something cheaper, no? Or less costly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And now let's entertain another question. Time check, it's 9:25, but are you still willing to extend for a few 3 or 4 more questions, Sir June?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, good. We have a question from Diane Sarmiento. You may open your mic and your cam. Diane?
Hi, Diane.
Hello po. Good afternoon, sir. First of all, it's an honor to have you here po, today. So this might seem like a very generic question since you probably have been getting this a lot po from students, but a lot of us here are still curious on what advice would you give aspiring broadcasters for them to be outstanding and better in the field, especially at a time like this, in a critical time like this we're in a pandemic, and it's very hard to obtain firsthand experiences outside. So are there any values we need to possess or enhance while we are in a situation like this po?
Okay. You're right. That's a generic, But
Yes.
for you, yeah, that if you want to work in a broadcast company, obviously the best way to earn this skills is to intern with a broadcast company, and KBP actually welcomes internship programs among all our members. We act as some kind of um, uh, a party that links the students with the networks. Okay, so a lot of in fact of our new hires in Manila Broadcasting Company were interns, OJTs from various schools. No, so that's number one. Yeah, it's best that you intern with a broadcast company, ideally one of the bigger ones, so you'd learn a lot more. And my generic answer to your question is, my thinking is this, and this is based not because I'm in broadcast, but because I'm as a manager. This what I've seen is most important is you have to be willing to learn. Number two, number two is you have to be a team player, and I think those are very very important. There are some very intelligent people who work for us, but if they're not a team player, they will not be successful. I think team play is much more important than just your IQ. In other words, EQ is I think, in my opinion, much more important than IQ. Okay, so IQ is important just to just to get in, but once you start working, I think EQ is far more important than the IQ itself. Okay.
So, sir, just a follow-up po, is it very hard to get into OJT, lalo na po, online classes po, kapag OJT po ba sa big companies, is it hard to get into one po, or the process is still the same?
Actually, for the most part, unfortunately, I think right now, most organizations are discouraging OJT for now because of the pandemic. I'm talking about siguro when we're allowed to already do internship and so forth. No, it happened. I'm kind of it is personal to me because my youngest daughter, was a medical intern when the pandemic hit. She was on the seventh month already of internship at Makati Med when the lockdown was implemented, and all the medical interns were sent home. You'd think that they would welcome more interns because there are more cases to be dealt with. But I think the hospitals and in fact, it's not just Makati Med, but all the hospitals were told to let their interns go home, and they were not allowed to do internship anymore. Fortunately, she did already most of the internship. All the important rotations were done already, and she since then took the medical exam and passed the board already. She's now a doctor. So, but as far as I know, up to now, internship programs are on hold. But hopefully soon we'll open up. And once that's available, we're more than welcome to. We're more than willing to welcome all of you guys. Of course, there's a limit, but we welcome a lot of OJTs, and as I said, a lot of our not just the broadcast graduates, but even engineers, IT people are the pool that we get are really coming from our internship program.
I see. Thank you po, sir.
Thank
Okay,
you,
thank you
Diane.
very much, Diane, and thank you, Surgeon. Okay, we have a question from the Department Chair of Communication, Ms. Anansa Dihan.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you po
Good
for
afternoon,
the
ma'am.
opportunity. Yes po. So I have this question. You have mentioned a while ago some trends, particularly on the digital shift of 2010, some issues that we are currently facing in the broadcasting industry. So obviously a lot has been happening. As we are in the field of academe, honing the minds of future communicators, I believe we have a big role in all of these things. So may I get your insights, sir, on what would be helpful for us to include in our program offering, or maybe naisip nyo dapat ganito na yung values na tinuturo namin. We are currently working kasi on the reviewing of our curriculum, and your insights might be really helpful.
You know, the best. I can give you some names on who would be best to consult. You might want to engage with the leaders of the Internet and Mobile Marketing Association of the Philippines. I can give you a list offline. We can talk about that.
Yes, sir.
So I can give you some names there. People like and some of these people are actually in the academe themselves. People like Donald Lim. I don't know if you know Donald Lim. He was
With
first
ABS
Inquirer.
before?
Sorry, ABS.
He was with ABS.
Yeah, well, he started out with Inquirer, and then he went on to be the president of Yehe, and then was recruited by McCann Erickson, then moved on to ABS-CBN as their head digital, and then was piloted again by the Dentsu Media Group, the agency, and now he's with Dito. But I think he continues to be a member of the academe. As far as I know, he used to teach. I'm not sure if it's La Salle or Ateneo, but he taught. And I can give you some other names who you can get advice from, insofar as coming up with a curriculum that will be more responsive to the marketplace.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Siguro, sir, what we can do is we can possibly set up also a Zoom meeting with some other KBP members and the Department of Communication. So we can do an industry consultation, industry
Absolutely.
academic consultation. Great,
Sure.
thanks. All right. Now I will be entertaining last two questions. One from Aaron Lucius. You may switch on your cam and your mic. Aaron?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to everyone. Sir June, thank you very much for your talk for this afternoon. So I would like to ask a question. So I'm Aaron Herbon from Master of Arts in Communication student from UP Diliman. So in connection to the transition of Philippine television from analog to digital, an unrelated issue, ABS-CBN has made a big step to its digital TV service, the ABS-CBN TV Plus, of which over 9 million of TV Plus boxes were sold prior to the shutdown. So with the ABS-CBN TV Plus also affected by the ABS-CBN shutdown, and coincidentally, GMA launching its affordable service, how do you think can the transition of the Philippines from analog to digital TV still progress as DICT targets full digital TV transition by 2023? Also considering that there are also misconceptions on digital TV terminologies that should be corrected, like the notion of picked up on the issue of frequency versus the term frequency versus channel during the ABS-CBN franchise hearings issue. Thank you.
Okay, that's medyo mahaba yung ano. No? But first on the impact of ABS-CBN, our position there, it's going to delay the transition to digital. But there's a technicality on the TV Plus. No, the reason why they were asked to shut what the NTC wanted ordered the ABS-CBN to shut off are the channels in the TV Plus. Okay, because technically the device itself is generic. It can be, in fact, you can still use it right now. People are still using it, except that that's still a platform for a free-to-air channel. They're using digital, their free-to-air channels and being received under TV Plus. So they were not allowed anymore to air the channel 2. Initially, they were still airing channel 43, and then ibang channels man lang. But they were asked to desist from that. No. So the problem for ABS-CBN now is that it doesn't have the frequencies. Okay. As to who will be awarded those frequencies, we don't know. Depends on, I guess, what the NTC will do with the channel 2 frequency and all the other frequencies, TV frequencies. And by the way, radio frequencies, ABS-CBN. So the impact on the transition, I think the government will still push. In fact, we in the KBP are still pushing for the mandatory shutdown of analog at some point in time, because we need to do that. There's so much investment already done in transitioning from analog to digital terrestrial television. And there's one important thing that needs to be pointed out. There's the digital dividend that the government will reap from this transition from analog to digital. No, there are several. In fact, number one is when we transition to digital terrestrial television. I think you know this, Aaron, already. That each frequency or each channel, sorry, each channel will be allowed not only just one, not each frequency will be able to allow will be able to broadcast not just one channel, but at least up to 6 or 7 channels, right? So channel 2 would have been able to have not just one program, but 6 or even 7 programs. So that in that sense, that's going to benefit the public because they're going to be they'll have more choices of programs to have, no, or more programs to choose from. So that's that's something that needs to be done because so mag-multiply by maybe 6 or 7 available options for all of us, which may in fact again this is an aside, may impact on some operations of, for example, cable television, because if there are enough channels to choose from, why even subscribe to cable TV, di ba? So that's an aside. The other important dividend for the government is the fact that when when we transition to digital television, channels to the VHF channels will be vacated. Okay, channels 2 to 13 will be vacated, and those will be used for internet, for broadband, for internet service, and those are very powerful frequencies. Once and we will because of there are so many things that can happen to those 2 to 13. We're talking about giving them to telcos. We're talking about government using the digital the TV white space that will allow even farthest barangay to now have internet connection. And I think that's the most important dividend that will be derived from the mandatory switch from analog to digital. Okay, so the original mandatory shutdown was 2015, Aaron, di ba? Nung panahon pa ni GMA, that was the target shut off. However, that got delayed because Noynoy Aquino did not approve the choice of ISDBT, which is the Japanese technology. Okay, he thought that GMA had some hanky-panky with the Japanese, and that's the reason why the ISDB was the standard chosen for DTTV, DTTV, no. But actually, there's none. The Japanese technology was just better. In fact, the KBP endorsed that, and the NTC agreed to our endorsement. So Noynoy thought there was some hanky-panky, and he delayed it, and eventually he found out it was okay, and there was nothing wrong with it, and eventually approved it. But that delayed the whole thing. So from 2015, it became 2020. 2020 passed because pandemic, and we weren't able to transition. And the last board meeting we had 2 weeks ago, we just asked the same question: when is the mandatory shutdown? It's come and gone. So now, and the NTC is not saying anything, or DICT. Now we said we need to force the issue. We need to transition already because of all these things, because of the dividends that are not being obtained right now. So that's the thing, no. The challenge for ABS-CBN is their frequencies talaga. If they lose those frequencies, if those frequencies are awarded to a lot of other applicants now for those parties. And as you know, Liz, this can be a political matter, especially with elections coming in. If those frequencies are awarded to another party that is friendly to then ABS-CBN will have a problem. They will tapos na, wala na silang makukuha. Di ba? And the channel 2 is the other thing I want to say is those VHF channels have a very important advantage over the other channels. What's that? All the VHF channels, when they transition to the new to digital, they will have a nationwide frequency. In other words, if you're channel, let's say 14 in Manila, you're also channel 14 all over the country. So that's only applicable to those that were vacating the VHF channels. That's not true for anyone else. So for example, in our case, we applied for a UHF frequency. If we get let's say a channel 45 in Manila, our Cebu will be different, will be a different channel. And that's a big advantage if your channel is the same all over the country. I'm not sure if I answered fully your question, Aaron, but I forgot some parts of the question. But please let me know if I were able to answer your concerns.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Thank you, sir. At
in
least
the
you have
interest
provided
of
for
time,
progress.
okay.
Thank you,
In
sir.
the interest of time, Aaron, I could not make you have a follow-up question, but certainly we're looking forward to part 2 of conversations with Sir June Nicdao. I promised one person that I'm just going to entertain one last question. I know that I'm 13 minutes over time, but please allow Jerome Sanchez to ask a question, particularly related to the Manila Broadcasting Company. Jerome, turn on your cam and your mic, please.
Hello, Sir June Nicdao.
Hello.
It's an honor po to meet you today.
It's an honor too, Jerome.
Yes, Manila Broadcasting Company for MBC became our topic po sa isang subject namin. And according to what I have studied, Manila Broadcasting Company is currently the biggest network in Asia with over 200 stations throughout the archipelago of the Philippines. I just want to ask po kasi we have studied that you faced a huge problem last October 2, 2019. Your main stations po were affected by major fire in the nearby sister company and theme park, Star City. I just want to ask po what was the best solution that you've done to bounce back po from that major problem?
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Jerome. No, we're fortunate that we prior to the fire, years prior to the fire, we already discussed in our strat planning meeting the possibility of a disaster happening to us. So we came up already as early as I think 5 years before the fire, some what we call the BCP or business continuity planning mechanism for us to be able to face disastrous events such as fire, flooding, a coup d'etat, and things like that. No? We had the unfortunate or fortunate experience of going through, the closure of through martial law and all that. No, all states are closed to martial law. And during the People Power Revolution, there was a threat again of forces from both sides of the argument of the possibility of attacking stations and so forth. So there was we knew the risk of a takeover of a transmitter or a disaster befalling us. So what we did is, even prior to the fire, is we established alternative studio locations and backup transmitting sites. So in the case of our FM stations, for example, while we have studios here in the CCP center, we had backup studios in our Ortigas area. So we were ready for that. So the FM stations were off the air for I think a few minutes. So as soon as we were able to activate our FM broadcast, I think within an hour or something like that. The FM was the AM was a little bit more challenging, but at the same time we also had a backup studio near our transmitter site. Okay, so of course the problem initially for the AM is the announcers didn't have an ideal location to broadcast, but we were on the air playing music and so forth. No? So what we did for the AM was to come up with a temporary studio, also together with the FMs, and then within I think a couple of days, the announcers were back broadcasting. So we didn't lose much in the form of downtime in terms of off-the-air downtime, and even advertising revenues were impacted not much because we were able to air advertisements quite easily. And the important thing is the materials, the advertising materials, had to be available. No? So our network system has a backup location where all our materials are backed up in a different location. Okay, our accounting system similarly the backup system, so we didn't lose files on our accounting and our billings, etc., etc. There were certainly some challenges initially, but because of the preparations we did, the BCP that we thought of, we were able to bounce back right away. What we failed, ito lang, of course there are lessons. For example, the files on our employees, yung mga 201 files namin, no? We lost those, so we're kind of reconstructing those right now. But certainly, I think the preparation that we had years before certainly saved the day for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerome, and to all our students and faculty members from FEU and also from other universities who are actually tuned in to our conversations or insights. At this point, allow me now to turn over the space to Ms. Anansa Dihan, our department chair for communication. She will hand over the e-certificate of appreciation to our speaker and also deliver the closing remarks. Ms. Anansa?
Okay, good afternoon again. I'd like to start by expressing our appreciation to our esteemed guest, Sir Jun Nicdao, in behalf of FEU Department of Communication. Marami pong salamat. I'm sure our students learned a lot from your insights. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule. We are truly honored to have this opportunity with you. What we have learned from this webinar is that the events of 2020, both the pandemic and the denial of the ABS-CBN franchise, has really changed the landscape of our industry. We have seen changes, both good and not so good, in trends and consumer behavior. We have seen shift, particularly to the digital platform. Hence, now we are able to reach to more audience. Now, what does it mean for us, especially for you, our dear students taking the course of communication? Aside from learning how to adopt in terms of creative content, this means that you're given a bigger responsibility of being conscious of what you say, to whom, and how you say it. Because you are knowledgeable of how powerful communication is, especially that now you're capable of reaching to a lot of people. Let's always be mindful of this fact. We can never go wrong with our values of fortitude, excellence, and uprightness. So with that, sir, maraming salamat. And to show our appreciation, I'd like to present this certificate that, okay. Pa-share po. I'd like to share the award, the certificate. Okay, hold on. All right, this one, to present the certificate of appreciation to Sir Ruperto Nicdao Jr. for your valuable contribution as a guest speaker during this 2021 COM webinar series given today, March 19, 2021, signed by myself, the Chair of the Department of Communication, along with our Dean of the Institute of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Rowena Capulo. So, maraming salamat, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor and Chair Nansa. Thanks a lot for inviting me. And mabuti sinabi mo yung the fact that because of digital, our audiences in broadcast has gone now not just limited by the reach of your transmitters. It's now become a global audience. You're right. So thank you for reminding everyone with that. So again, I appreciate this, and it's really an honor to be able to speak to all of you today. Thank you very much.
Once again, maraming salamat, Sir Jun Nicdao. But before you leave, may we request everyone in Zoom to please open your video cams. Let's have pictures as a souvenir. Ms. Anansa, you're good at this. Can we now have pictures of everyone who has joined the webinar, please? All right, please turn on your cams as we are documenting the students, not only from Far Eastern University, but apparently we even have students from UP Diliman, and I am just not aware of what other schools are represented in the Zoom right now. Okay, so on your cue, Ms. Anansa.
Okay, ayan, mga nag-aayos ng hair. All right, the first we have about 5 pages. Okay, smile. Second, long smile, 1, 2, 3. third. 1, 2, 3. And last. Okay, that's it.
Right. Once again, thank you very much,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
I'll see you, Sir June,
See you.
at DZRH.
Yeah, see you, Liz.
Thank you,
Okay,
everyone.
see you in RH, ah.
Thank you po.
Okay,
Opo,
bye.
opo. Thanks.